Now, caring for children with special needs can be challenging, but when love and patience are applied, the result is always satisfying. Special needs is an umbrella term for a wide array of diagnoses, from those that resolve quickly to those that might be a challenge for life. Children with special needs often have unique demands, both at home and at school, that require accommodation so that children can reach their potential. A 2017 experiment conducted by the World Bank in 19 middle and low-income countries concluded that 3 in 10 children with disabilities have never enrolled in school, and that just about half of those who do enroll complete primary school. In Nigeria, which has the world's highest number of out-of-school children, ascertaining the percentage of those with learning disabilities is next to impossible, as official data is non-existent. As such, educational plans often do not address the needs of children with disabilities, pushing them further to the margins of society. Now, joining us, a special needs advocate, Tonye Faloughi-Ekezie. I hope I got that right.
You did. I'm really impressed.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the TVC Breakfast. When we talk about children with special needs, yes, we try to, give some form of definition, but you might want to, you are in this field, and give us an insight into what it is exactly.
Well, when you say a child with special needs or someone with special needs, it can cross kind of 2 definitions. So you have disabilities, so a child that has a physical disability, can't walk, something like that, cerebral palsy. And then you have other special needs, which affect the learning capabilities, affects the brain, and comes with congenital complications. For example, Down syndrome, autism, which is a hidden disability because you can't tell. Someone can look like you and me and actually have autism. That's a hidden disability. So it crosses all those things, both physical, because you can have someone who's physically disabled but has no learning difficulty. Is sharp as a whip. And you can have someone like my daughter who has Down syndrome, and she has learning delays, which means she's age 6 now, but maybe some of the things she can do are, like her mates, but some things she's maybe 2 or 3 years behind.
Right. So let's look at the issues now. How do parents, it's a challenge, obviously, but then again, there are certain things that are important for caregivers, be they parents, whoever they may be, to understand how to handle these children with special needs. Talk to us from that window.
Well, I would say the foundation of anything is like any child. A child flourishes when they're loved. So the first thing, before you look at spending any money, worrying about schools, what is happening in your home? Just like your former guest, Tessie, said, everything starts from the home.
Right.
So what I love about Nigeria is that we still have that culture of community, right? So it's not just the mom and dad, or just the mom, or just the dad. There's a whole plethora of people around you. And when you're raising a child with special needs, you need to call on that village. You cannot handle it on your own. So if you can surround your child with genuine people that just exude love and help you build this environment that's safe and secure, that child, whatever the special need, will excel. Love is the foundation of everything. And special needs children are so intuitive. They feel everything. So even though they may not communicate in the same way, like someone with autism, they feel everything and they're aware of what is happening in their environment.
Love being the first thing.
First, yes.
What else can be built on that?
So obviously you have to get an official diagnosis in order to kind of know how to treat your child. So if I use my daughter as an example, she was diagnosed late with Down syndrome. So she wasn't diagnosed until she was 4.5 months. I didn't know there was anything wrong with her, but it came like that. She got diagnosed. What do you do? Now, how you get your diagnosis sets you on your path. So someone with usually being diagnosed with Down syndrome, the parents are usually told, send the child to the village, it won't be of any use, the child will be useless. And that's complete opposite. We were told that it's not the end of the world. And it really is not the end of the world. There's nothing to be ashamed about. You know, there's so much love in these children and so much joy in these children. So you get the diagnosis, you speak with your doctor or the clinician who diagnosed, and they will give you the tools and the steps to move forward. That's what is meant to happen. In many cases, people do not get the diagnosis but are aware that there's something different about the child.
Yes.
And I would just say, if the parent is invested in this child, we live in the day of internet, data, social media. And while, yes, there's a downside to internet and social media, for me, with special needs, it's connected me to a community. I have learned so much from other parents who were before me, other parents even come after me, other parents with different diagnoses. So the key is for helping your child is that you need to speak up. You need to take action, especially in the early years. There's something called early intervention, which, because the brain of the child from 0 to 6 years is at its most spongiest, right? You can absorb. So that's the best time to start working with your child, especially if they have learning delays, especially if they're on the spectrum with autism, because you can reduce some of the behaviors that come with that, but also you are getting it early. You're helping your child to learn, reach their potential. So later on, you know, they can be independent. They can be functioning members of society.
Right.
So you do the hard work now, which is painful sometimes, and it's difficult sometimes, but you will reap the reward later because they will need you less in the future. And we won't be here. You know, I won't be here. At some point, I will pass. Have I done the best I can do for my daughter to make sure she can survive, and not only survive, excel in society?
Right, very important. You mentioned some things that I'd like for us to also, you know, build on. Talking about there is nothing for parents to be ashamed of.
Yes, definitely not.
Now, that speaks to the fact that it seems we haven't done a lot in terms of educating people to accept children with special needs in the society.
Look, you know, some people, there's schools now, for example, in Lagos State, mandated schools are to be inclusive. So a parent will send their child with special needs to school, the child gets accepted. But when other parents find out their child is sitting next to that child with special needs, they threaten to pull their child out of that school. They don't want anything to do with that. So there is an educational need that needs to go for parents to understand, like, for example, you need health screenings in schools, right? Because you need to be able to pick up where children are meeting their milestones. It's not just special needs children. Health screenings are important. Inclusiveness is important. There's no shame in it. And in fact, it's been proven by research and statistics that children who are in an inclusive environment, neurotypical and special needs, do better. The neurotypical child does better when in an inclusive environment because they learn skills they won't otherwise have learned. You learn about empathy, teamwork, navigating the world, getting used to meeting and dealing with people who are different. And all those things are part of education. So really, we need to go back and tackle the educational system in terms of obviously educating the healthcare workers, because also nurses, doctors need to be re-educated, and helping parents to understand there's no shame, but also in the educational system itself, in terms of identifying, in terms of firming up protocols for duty of care, which also will benefit all children. We know there's been a lot of issues with schools recently, you know, with Doing College, with another school in Abuja, with another school in Dolphin. I mean, there's a lot going on. So if we can also firm this educational system up, because we are receiving special needs children of all different kinds,
right,
then it will do better, not only for the special needs child, actually ends up being better for the whole community.
Now, you spoke about inclusivity. How well have we fared as a country? Let's not just leave it to Lagos State somehow. You're right, because we have 36 states of the Federation, and we have people across the states that have children with special needs. How have we fared? How have we tried to ensure we give services that ensure inclusivity as a country?
Well, we're not doing that great. Lagos State is doing the best out of any state here in Nigeria. I get DMs, calls all the time. Oh, I'm in the East, do I know any therapists? Do I know this? And you find that the further out you go, the less availability there is. And what that does, it has left a vacuum for charlatans.
Right.
So there's a huge issue right now. And again, that's why I go back to the government needs to get involved, firming up, constitutional laws, firming up education, firming up duty of care, qualifications, certifications that should be mandated and checked up on. So our thing is that there are some wonderful people doing great work here in Nigeria, and also now able to train and certify and qualify actual practitioners who then will also train technicians, facilitators, all that infrastructure of people that is needed to deliver this mandate of inclusive education. But there's so much work to do, and I think the government needs to do better in including the people and learning from the people who are working. There's schools who are doing the right thing. How can we learn generally from what they're doing and apply it across board? And also clamp down on, for example, a school that is using electroshock treatment on its special needs kids. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, yeah. And using forced restraints on the children. So there's a lot of things. Schools will say that they accept special needs children, but when you get there, the special needs children are in one room, there's nothing for them, and they're telling you, oh no, you bring your person, you bring the items, but you're not inclusive. So there's people who will tell parents to come for an assessment, the parents come for an assessment, they're spending so much money for one assessment, and then the charlatan will then add diagnoses that are not applicable to the child. So there's a real exploitation of vulnerable, desperate parents happening out there. And I think if we can work with the Ministry of Education and work to really look at monitoring, qualifications, duty of care protocols, that's really the way we need to move forward, as we understand that we have a huge special needs population, and they're not going anywhere. So let's do our best for them, because it will help us as a society in general.
Absolutely. You mentioned something about desperate parents with special needs children. What kind of attitude? Because from the way you're speaking, you have gotten to a certain level where a lot of parents are still finding it difficult to even accept the child and get to this level. Now, what kind of attitude should they begin to develop for themselves to help their children?
Well, I think we should never deny a parent's right to grieve. Last year, during this whole COVID time, I realized that some of my feelings I could identify as grief, because I realized that you grieve for the child you thought you were going to have. But this is the child God gave you. I will never return my child. If someone said, boop, I said, no, this is the child I want. But I didn't know it. So I think you have to allow parents to grieve for the child they thought they were having, in order that they can accept the child they have. And it doesn't mean because you're grieving for that child you thought you would have, that you don't love your child. You love your child. So with that, allowing them to have that process, but you can't allow them to have that process for too long, because time is key. And
how long can they have that process for?
It really depends. I really, hopefully, can keep it to if it's early, 6 months, but some people dwell on this stage for years, and you have to get them out of it, because time is a huge factor in how well these children do. So with that, you do get parents, and you get couples where maybe the mom is ashamed of the child, doesn't do anything, but the dad is active. And I've had dads contacting me, I have a son with this, I have a son with this, I want to do something, what can I do? And it just needs one parent to just get in that mode of like, we need to do something and reach out. And as I said, if you cannot find a therapist or someone physically to help your child, there's lots of resources online that can get you started while you do that search, while you look for a school if you want them in school, or you look for a tutor or help that can come home. And, financially it is difficult.
Right.
Even for someone who has, from middle class, is having a good job, it is difficult. So imagine being of a lower class and having a child with special needs. it's difficult all around. But what I say to people of lower class is that, you know, the first step is that they've accepted the child. And with that, resources, invest in data. You know, you have a phone, start reading up, educating yourself, and you can do these things with your child at home yourself. It's not rocket science, but it is necessary.
Absolutely. And that will be a fine place to leave this conversation this morning. Special Needs Advocate Tonye Faloughi-Ekezie, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Right.